13 violent and dark He-Man 2002 episodes explored the superior reboot. If you grew up in the 80s, chances are you probably saw the popular He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series. Kids loved the action figures and the cartoon show. Even though many are nostalgic about the series, it never got a proper rerun for a very long time.
Cosmic Comet is now in my power!
Yes, the main purpose of the show was to sell toys, but somewhere down the line they did create an interesting storyline and fun characters were entertaining to watch. This cartoon show was made by Filmation, and it wasn't until 2002 that we got an upgraded version. The new Masters of the Universe cartoon was definitely a step up in many ways. The graphics got better, as did the animation. There was a clear influence of the DC universe on this show, and the similar artwork is out there for you guys to judge. The storyline was engaging, and the backstories of a lot of characters became way more attractive.
It's only Skeletor.
It was a welcome attempt to revive the He-Man mythos, and for many this proved to be a better quality adaptation. In this video we explore some of the finest episodes of the series, so that you can get a taste of this superior reboot. If people want to take a leaf out of how to reboot a classic series, this is the perfect example.
Before we go into our list, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin.
Maybe you can return it for a refund.
Number 1. The Beginning 1, 2, 3. The first episode begins with a recapitulation of the past, shedding light on some of the heroes and villains that we would see going ahead. In a chaotic environment, Captain Randor, a brave commander, advises the Council of Elders to flee because the forces of Keldor were moving towards the capital. However, the Elders are calm and composed because they have already foreseen the outcome of the conflict. Keldor would be defeated and Randor would become the ruler of Eternia, in place of the Elders. Randor is overwhelmed by the offer as he was only a mere soldier. Shortly afterwards, Keldor and his evil warriors arrive and engage in a fierce battle with Randor and his men. The Elders vanish magically in a flash of light as we witness Randor and Keldor engaged in a duel. Just as Randor seemed to overpower Keldor, the latter uses some kind of acid to disfigure Randor's face. Luckily, Randor manages to deflect it back to Keldor using his shield, and Keldor cries out in pain before fleeing. King Randor sends his warriors after the fleeing evil forces, and hears the voice of the sorceress. She informs him that the evil forces would be pushed back into the Dark Hemisphere, and should the day come when the evil comes back, there would be a hero to protect Eternia. After this brief flashback, we come back to the present day scenario, where Prince Adam and Teela are practicing their fighting skills. Prince Adam seems rather casual about the whole training process because he is certain that the days of the evil are over. Man-at-Arms, however, reminds him that the threat is always looming at large over Eternia, and it turns out that he's right. Skeletor seems to have put together a device that can trigger severe earthquakes, and these could breach the mystic wall that separates them.
I said, Elders, the power of Eternia will finally be mine!
Back in the palace, Prince Adam is celebrating his 16th birthday majestically. Once Skeletor's device is activated and the consecutive blasts are fired, the shockwaves rattle the palace as well. Man-at-Arms telepathically communicates with the sorceress and he takes Adam to Castle Greyskull. In the meantime, Skeletor seems to inquire about the Council of Elders because he doesn't buy into their sudden disappearance. The sorceress reveals to Adam that the Council of Elders had transformed into a magical crystal orb inside Castle Greyskull, and we learn that Adam is the hero that would protect Eternia.
You shall be transformed into a great warrior, He-Man, guardian of the secret of Castle Greyskull.
He would turn into He-Man when the need arises, but Adam misunderstands all this to be a prank. However, his return home is shocking as he finds nearly everything in his path in ruins. Keldor, who is now turned into Skeletor, is responsible for the attack, and King Randor and the others were fighting them at some other place. Teela is also seen fighting the enemy, and Adam and Man-at-Arms arrive just in time to save her from the lost battle. The scene shifts to where Keldor and Randor are fighting it out, and this is where we see how Keldor's face was now just a skull due to the corrosive acid-like liquid, and he decides that Skeletor was now an appropriate name for him. He takes the king captive and flies away. Adam starts to see the seriousness of the situation and he runs to Castle Greyskull. This time, the sorceress guides him to the sword that is the secret of all the powers.
Heavy.
Soon to be much lighter in the hands of He-Man.
When he utters the magical words by the power of Greyskull, he is transformed into the mighty He-Man. The sorceress also instructs him to maintain secrecy about his identity, and Cringer, his pet tiger, is brought so that he can ride the beast into battle. He arrives just as the defending forces of Eternia were starting to lose, and changes the tide of the battle. He fights the evil warriors like Evelyn, Doomseeker, and saves the lives of Teela and the other defenders. He also saves King Randor from getting thrown off a cliff. And this is where we see Skeletor and He-Man duel for the first time. Eventually, Skeletor retreats, but he clearly has plans to take over Eternia and get rid of He-Man, the latest and most formidable obstacle in his path.
I didn't think you could get any uglier.
Number 2. Skywar Season 1 Episode 5. The 5th episode reveals a lot of conspiracies being hatched, and it proves that the show wasn't all about the mindless fighting. Skeletor learns that Stratos and Buzzoff met at the Royal Palace, and he's intrigued. A gargoyle is sent to spy on them, and we make out that King Randor was trying to broker peace between the races so that the evil forces of Skeletor can be defeated. Buzzoff isn't too keen about all this because the humanoid bee was confident that their people could deter any attacks on them. The meeting turns out to be a failure, and Prince Adam walks out after everybody's departure. Teela is disappointed with his diplomatic skills, but a lot more awaits them. As they head back, Buzzoff and the other Andrenids are ambushed by some Avian warriors. The Andrenids rain down on the group of Stratos, but both the Avian warriors and the Andrenids were in fact Beastman's gargoyles.
A few more fiendish manipulations will make them certain of it.
He-Man sets out to investigate the matter and heads towards the Mystic Mountains, accompanied by Teela and his Battle Cat. They arrive on Battlehawks, but both get shot down in some time. They fight bravely and defeat Skeletor's minions. But a greater conspiracy is at play. Skeletor's evil tactics ensure great misunderstanding between the races, as the Avian and the Andrenid armies stand facing each other. Luckily, they choose to refrain from attacking unless provoked. When He-Man, Teela, and the Battle Cat finally arrive at the Mystic Mountains, they watch the opposing armies ready to attack. Skeletor, Evelyn, and Triclops get their hands on a portion of Ambrosia, the source of the Andrenid's powers. They almost defeat He-Man and his friends, but the effects of the Ambrosia wears off because it was permanent only on the Andrenids. He-Man tells the opposing armies that in reality, Skeletor had duped them. The episode ends on a happy note, where Buzzoff and Stratos swear allegiance to the royal palace reigned by King Randor. We learn a valuable lesson of teamwork in the course of this entertaining episode.
A few more seconds, the power of the elders will be mine!
Why do you need more power, Skeletor?
Number 3, The Ties That Bind, Season 1, Episode 9. This episode catches sight of some strange things that happen to Teela, one of the main characters of the show. During a fight against the evil forces, she is seriously injured, and the other warriors are anxious, not knowing how to restore her health. Even Man-at-Arms is left clueless when suddenly a voice is heard suggesting that she needed blood immediately. All the warriors were prepared to offer the same, but Man-at-Arms knew that there had to be a catch. Later, Teela wakes up in a recovery room, and strangely, she can read people's minds now.
Okay. More than okay. I think she read my mind.
She has newfound psychic powers that allow her to see the past and get inside people's minds. Man-at-Arms stops Prince Adam from meeting her in this state because of the risk of her learning that he was actually He-Man. He seems to think that the blood of the sorceress that was used to revive her had bestowed upon her psychic powers. Man-at-Arms is clearly disturbed and pays a visit to the sorceress, who seems a tad weak after donating her blood to Teela. He states that her actions were confusing the recovering Teela, and also suggests that Teela needed her mother at that moment. On the other hand, Skeletor and his evil accomplices were pondering over their failed attack. Skeletor seems to think that the attack wasn't entirely a failure. With Teela injured, their defenses were weakened, and another attack could rattle them. Evelyn, a sorceress herself, reveals that Teela had turned into a psychic, but with little control over her thoughts and powers. This was a golden opportunity for Evelyn to manipulate her powers and misguide her.
They will never see the attack coming.
Tila intercepts a message from Evelyn that they would be attacking through the desert, unaware that this was a trick to divert them. She gathers her fellow warriors and heads to the desert to stop the attack. Man-at-Arms goes to meet with the sorceress, and a great secret is discovered. We learn that Tila was actually her daughter, whom she had to give away because she had too many responsibilities occupying her. Man-at-Arms wants to tell Tila about her actual identity, but the sorceress feels that the time isn't right.
I don't think I have a heart.
Perhaps your heart has grown as hard and brittle as these crystals you surround yourself with.
Meanwhile, Tila and the others were attacked by beasts that burst through the sands of the desert. She figures out that Evelyn had tricked her, but the realization comes a little too late. He-Man and the Battle Cat are headed out as well, as the episode gets more interesting by the minute. He slams the beast into the ground and saves Tila and the other warriors. The voice of the sorceress warns Tila that Greyskull is under attack and that they must come to its rescue immediately. The sorceress creates a force field to stop the attack, but she is weak and the force field doesn't hold. Tila breaches the force, however He-Man, Tila and the others arrive just in the nick of time. Skeletor's forces are defeated and Tila communicates with the sorceress once again. However, the sorceress doesn't disclose the secret, recognizing that one day she would know it all. Number 4, Mechanek's Lament, Season 1, Episode 12. We all love the cybernetically enhanced warrior Mechanek, with an extendable neck and telescopic vision. In this episode, while fighting Skeletor and his minions, Mechanek's neck gets injured. As the situation worsens, Man-at-Arms orders his men to retreat, and Mechanek is left behind to reconnaissance.
What about me?
Reconnaissance. Let us know if Skeletor calls in reinforcements.
The other Masters use all their might to destroy the bridge that leads into Castle Greyskull. Mechanek has often been shown as someone who is insecure about his powers, so much so that Prince Adam finds out that he was depressed while at the royal palace. Adam tries to make him feel better by telling him about the times when his skills save the day and it helps. He goes to Man-at-Arms so that his neck can be repaired, but seems depressed again while leaving the lab. It turns out that Man-at-Arms had developed a new reconnaissance device. Dejected, Mechanek skims stones into a lake, and suddenly a raft operated by an old man seems to be coming his way. He helps the old man and makes known his wish for special powers.
Magic, alas, does not work on myself. But I can grant your wish.
The old man states that the wish could be granted if Mechanek helped him find the amulet from the Sands of Fire. He agrees to help the old man in return for better powers. And we see the sorceress telling Adam about the return of the evil Count Marzo. When he attacked the Hall of Wisdom several years ago, it was King Randor's father Miro who had defeated and exiled him. The amulet was the source of his powers. We feel powerless being on the other side of the screen as Mechanek unknowingly aids the evil. When he retrieves the amulet using his neck-stretching abilities, the old man vanishes and reappears in his true form as Count Marzo. Adam transforms into He-Man as Count Marzo heads to the royal palace to exact his revenge, but nobody seems to be able to stop the powerful Count Marzo and his savage hounds. Guess who comes to the rescue? If you guessed Mechanek, you hit the bullseye. Mechanek, with his neck-stretching abilities, stalls Count Marzo. This buys enough time for He-Man to attack once again, and in the meantime, Mechanek retrieves the amulet and captures Marzo. It is clear that Marzo's unique powers are truly special, and he should have been content with it in the first place.
Pick on somebody my own size!
Number 5, Night of the Shadow Beasts, Season 1, Episode 13. The episode starts off with Beastman using his army of genetically engineered vicious creatures called the Shadow Beasts to attack Castle Greyskull. These creatures are extremely powerful, but vulnerable to light.
Even if it means blotting out the very sky.
Thus, they plan to attack at night, and Skeletor causes a severe volcanic eruption that covers the sky with ash. The Masters are all occupied by the relentless attack of the Shadow Beasts, and He-Man steps in to help. Benefiting from this diversion, Skeletor heads for Castle Greyskull to break in. There is also a parallel subplot that explores Ram Man's fear of the dark. Teela helps him overcome this fear. In the meantime, Skeletor used another group of shadow beasts to open the drawbridge of Castle Greyskull.
Knock, knock. Guess who?
We must admit that taking action despite your fears and other such morals, which we learn through the stories, couldn't be better told. He does breach the gates of Greyskull, but only to fall into the abyss. He recovers, but the sorceress makes Skeletor's life a lot more difficult with her spells. A massive light field makes the shadow beast scatter in terror, and Skeletor takes up the completion of the task on his own shoulders.
Who needs you?
However, that doesn't quite work out, as a lethal punch from He-Man sends him running back to Snake Mountain. But the job is only half done, since the volcano was still sending clouds of ash into the sky. He-Man astonishingly carves out the side of the volcano and the lava flows out. After this, light returns to Eternia, forcing the Shadow Beast to retreat to the Snake Mountain. Skeletor is furious over the epic failure, and being the terrible whiny boss, he lets these beasts loose on Triclops, Evelyn, and the others.
I, He-Man, yes, must destroy He-Man!
Number 6. The Monster Within Season 1, Episode 16. During the battle over the Emerald of Orca's Island, Beastman finds out about one of his special powers. He can control Many Faces in his monster form, and could use this against the Masters. Many Faces was a member of the Heroic Warriors and has several faces, like that of a human, a robot, or a monster. Many Faces has lost his confidence, making him hesitant to convert into Many Monster. Skeletor is tired of the constant letdowns by his henchmen and decides to hire professionals for the job. He takes the services of 2 bounty hunters, Badra and Tuvar, to defeat He-Man. His wicked army isn't too happy with his decision, but when has Skeletor ever cared about their feelings?
Let them defeat He-Man. Then we come in, finish them off, and take the credit for ourselves.
He-Man and Many Faces are sent to the Tar Swamp to look into a possible monster, and it turns out to be a trap set for them by the bounty hunters. The 2 hunters fight over who would get the bounty, and Many Faces is forced to transform into Many Monster, using his tremendous strength to free He-Man.
Obey your master. No, yes.
However, Beastman succeeds at puppeteering him, and the evil minions of Skeletor turn up to steal the bounty hunter's credit. But this time, Many Faces successfully fights Beastman's control. He employs his acting skills to fool Beastman and frees He-Man when the opportunity arises. Once He-Man is freed, the wicked battalion is forced to retreat, and Many Faces regains his lost confidence. On the Snake Mountain, the evil warriors put all the blame on the bounty hunters, and Skeletor is once again enraged. He uses his magical powers to fuse them together into a monstrous form called Too Bad. Number 7. Snake Pit, Season 1, Episode 21. Episode sets out in great suspense as we watch a mysterious 6-legged lizard sneaking into the palace dungeon. The guards are busy playing chess, and the lizard hands over a set of keys to one particular prisoner. In no time, he frees himself and attacks the guards. One of them manages to sound the alarm, but the prisoner escapes. When Man-at-Arms arrives, we learn that the prisoner was Cobra Khan.
Cobra Khan.
By now, he steals a sky sled from a guard and disappears with his pet lizard. They land near Snake Mountain, where he states that he plans to release King Hiss. Initially, Skeletor's men mistake him for an intruder, but it turns out that they could be allies.
Mighty Skeletor, I have come to pledge my loyalty to you.
Man-at-Arms is not oblivious to his plans, and he informs Prince Adam, Teela, and Orko about the same. The Snake Men and King Hiss should not be freed under any circumstances. They indeed have a tough trial awaiting them. We get to know about the history of the Snake Men, who had once almost conquered Eternia. The Snake Mountain was their invincible fortress, and the combined strength of the Elders made sure that they would be entombed for eternity. It was something like a timeless prison, allowing the inhabitants of Eternia to be safe. Zodak, a mystical character, had also helped them accomplish this, and the sorceress advises them to seek his help once again. They head to the Mystic Mountains and the scene shifts to Cobra Khan and Skeletor walking around the Snake Mountains. Cobra Khan seems very inquisitive about the place, and the Beast Man doesn't appreciate such curiosity. On the other hand, Man-at-Arms and the others find Zodak and divulge Cobra Khan's plans. Zodak decides to settle the matter on his own, possibly because his brother was killed by King Hiss and he held a grudge since then. But the others ponder if Skeletor and his men would be too powerful for Zodak. Cobra Khan pretends to be interested in attacking the royal palace, but sneaks out to explore a hallway. Zodak arrives just then and proves to be too powerful for the evil minions alone. He seeks Cobra Khan, who is on his way to awaken King Hiss and the Snake Men. When Zodak apprehends him, Cobra Khan outsmarts him and pins him down. A Snake Man emerges with plans to feed Zodak to King Hiss, but the warriors led by Man-at-Arms arrive just in time. A brutal fight ensues and He-Man gets separated from his source of power, his sword. Zodak helps him out and the two combine their powers to send the Snake Man back into the pit and seal it. Cobra Khan vanishes but warns them that he would be back to awaken King Hiss once again. With this, Zodak now becomes an ally of the Masters, and they manage to push evil back one more time. Number 8, The Council of Evil Part 1 and Part 2, Season 1, Episode 25 and 26. This episode starts off in a rather optimistic fashion, on account of He-Man and the Masters defeating Skeletor's men in a decisive battle.
Amateur time is over. No!
Most of his renowned henchmen are captured and the Masters think of it as a great victory. They return to their hometowns and spread across Eternia for a vacation. Everyone seems to be in a celebratory mood. However, nobody pays much attention to the fact that the evil Skeletor was still roaming freely. It's revealed that it was his plan all along to get his henchmen captured. This would make the warriors complacent and the security system of Eternia would be relaxed, providing Skeletor with the perfect opportunity to strike.
Me. I have done the dividing. Now go conquer.
In the meantime, he assembles a team comprising the likes of Count Marzo, Webstor, Evil Seed, and the Giants. He-Man finds out that his companions are being held and he rushes in to save them. The second part of the story is revealed in the next episode, where we see He-Man's quest to rescue his friends. An ambush attack by the evil forces keeps him pinned, but he somehow manages to escape as Prince Adam. The episode heightens the crisis manifold when we learn that Prince Adam has lost his sword. To make matters worse, the imprisoned minions of Skeletor have been freed by the Snake Men, making the combined evil forces poised for an attack. The defense of Castle Greyskull rests on a powerless Prince Adam, and there has hardly been a worse time for the heroes in this series. The episode ends on a cliffhanger. Later in the episode, called The Last Stand, we see Prince Adam being reunited with his sword that allows him to transform into He-Man. The Masters are freed and they must reach Greyskull in time to help He-Man fight the combined forces. Number 9, Rise of the Snake Men, Part 1 and Part 2. Season 2, Episode 4 and 5. We have a lot of new things to look forward to in this storyline, which lasted for 2 episodes. First off, it was a new season, and secondly, He-Man's new snake armor looked dope. The narrative picks up where we see Rattle, Evelyn, and Cobra Khan stealing Zodak's possessions. Evelyn has always been shown as the clever, ambitious young lady, and when the opportunity arises, she doesn't hesitate, even if it meant betraying Skeletor. She helps Rattle and the Snake Men free King Hiss.
My throne. I, King Hiss, the true ruler of Eternia.
Alas, the Snake Men turn her evil partners to stone and a giant snake is summoned that devours Skeletor. The notorious villain doesn't get a chance to defend himself and the Snake Mountain is now reclaimed by its rightful owner. The mountain grows 2 more heads and King Hiss is extremely pleased with the efforts of his subjects. He is particularly pleased with Evelyn and decides to honour her by devouring her. He explores her mind for further knowledge of Greyskull, but finds nothing substantial and spares her. They lay siege to Castle Greyskull and He-Man and the other warriors form the last line of defense.
Let us see whose magic is stronger.
It still isn't enough to stop King Hiss from poisoning the sorceress, and she grows weaker by the minute. Rattler is knocked out by He-Man, and Zodak comes to their rescue one more time. He uses his magical powers to throw King Hiss down Greyskull's moat. The Snake Men follow him there, and it seems like the troublemaker has been put to rest for now. However, the sorceress's condition worsens and He-Man tries to help. He takes her to the Elders, who use their special powers to neutralize the poison administered. The newly created heads of the Snake Mountain crumble, and Skeletor emerges from the floor and resurrects his evil minions. He was livid with fury at Evelyn and desperate for revenge. Number 10, The Power of Greyskull, Season 2, Episode 9. Prince Adam has a strange dream. He gazes at the Snake Men, Hordak, and a warrior who is very similar in appearance to the He-Man but cannot make sense of it. To clear his confusion, he heads to Castle Greyskull in hopes that the sorceress would be able to shed some light on the situation. The sorceress does know a fair bit about the dream. The warrior that he saw was actually King Greyskull, the powerful ruler of Eternia from ages ago.
Eternia free of bloodshed. If battle I must, then battle I will.
He was also the Lord of Castle Greyskull, and this noble warrior was betrothed to the original sorceress, Veena. He lost his sword in a fight against the Snake Men and wanted to defeat Hordak, who planned on conquering Eternia. King Greyskull went to the Oracle for advice as directed by Veena, and the creature sent him on a quest that would test his courage, strength, wisdom, and kindness. After he aced the test and pleased the Oracle, it reveals that the King Greyskull would fall in the fight with Hordak.
Your power is impressive, Greyskull.
Even after knowing his fate, he fearlessly went to defend his motherland. In the brutal fight that followed, Greyskull unleashed his full strength against the might of Hordak's forces, and even his giant cat caused some serious damage to the soldiers. However, Hordak proved to be a bit too powerful as he commanded the wizards to open a portal to another world to send off the king. But Greyskull manages to reverse the spell, and instead Hordak and his forces were sucked into the portal. In another flashback, we see how Hordak saved Skeletor's life back in the day. Now, he commanded Skeletor to free him from the dimension where he had been imprisoned. King Greyskull had defeated Hordak, but he was fatally injured. He handed his powers to the Council of Elders and asked Veena to protect the powerful sword for a future warrior to wield and evoke its powers. The sorceress guided the sword with all her might, and King Greyskull passed away. His spirit seeped into the magical sword. Adam learns all about the history of the sword, and he realizes that Skeletor must be stopped before he frees Hordak. However, there is a shocking twist at the end. We see that Skeletor never intended on freeing Hordak in the first place, and he destroyed his former sanctuary that would stop him from returning ever again. Evelyn and He-Man are a bit puzzled by the strange turn of events, but at the end of the day, good conquered evil once more.
Your tomb!
Number 11, Rattle of the Snake, Season 2, Episode 11. Manipulation and conspiracies have often been the driving point of the stories in the 2002 Masters of the Universe episodes. This one revolves around the ploy hatched by the Snake Men to take over humanity. This causes two factions to fight amongst themselves, but the Masters soon reveal that the Snake Men were behind the actual attacks. They planned on awakening King Hiss, and the only ones in their way were the Masters. Man-at-Arms, He-Man, and the others are seen scaling a mountain. We're introduced to a new character, Teela's uncle, who doesn't seem to get along very well with her father. They must find a way to defeat King Hiss once more.
Push faster, lizard scum!
The ancient temple where the snake gods were worshipped was being explored by the Snake Men. They wished to awaken King Hiss and take control of the world. The Masters arrive just in time, and Prince Adam runs off to come back as He-Man. But the Snake Men fight viciously, and the warriors are pinned down by the combined forces. Just then, by the power of Greyskull, He-Man arrives to save the day, just as Cobra Khan restrains Teela and her uncle. The Snake Men are subdued, and He-Man takes up the fight against King Hiss in a final showdown. He tries to intimidate He-Man by saying how he fought King Greyskull, and He-Man was no match for his powers. He-Man strikes the ground with his sword and rattles the king's foothold. His general assaults He-Man from the rear and knocks him out. Just as the final blow is about to take out He-Man, Teela's long-lost uncle comes to the rescue and lands a lethal punch. As the ancient snakes start to awaken, the warriors are locked in a final combat. Man-at-Arms joins them and they perceive a newfound strength. The factions that initially waged war against each other now put up a united front against the Snake Men. And finally, the heroes seem to comprise an overwhelming majority. Man-at-Arms buries his differences with his brother and the two factions establish peace for the greater good.
The mighty Servos and ruling Eternia once more!
Number 12. History Season 2, Episode 12. This episode serves as a link between the climatic episode and the one before. Here we see the Snake Men making preparations to awaken the mighty Servos. Cobra Khan, one of King Hiss's loyalists, was being punished by General Rattler and sent to the surface. Prince Adam and Fisto were in pursuit and even Count Marzo was on the run. A group of barbarians were after him and still in his dwarf form he was helpless. When he meets Evelyn, his troubles are solved and he transforms back to his normal form. However, she keeps his amulet on the condition that she would hand it back when Marzo helped her free Hordak from the Well of Darkness. Soon the news reaches King Hiss, all thanks to Cobra Khan's eavesdropping. With the possibility of Hordak returning, King Hiss tries his best to stop Count Marzo and Evelyn. When the Masters show up, they leave some soldiers behind and head for the Well of Darkness. Prince Adam transforms into He-Man and Mossman too offers some help. The moment Count Marzo and Evelyn begin the process of freeing Hordak, King Hiss tries to stop them. At this very moment, He-Man attacks them and they are knocked into the river. He then heads to the Well of Darkness to ensure that Hordak doesn't return. Just as they were about to complete the spell, He-Man intervenes. Most of King Hiss's men are arrested and their lair is destroyed by the Masters. However, King Hiss and Rattle are pleased with the outcome, because He-Man did his job for him. It turns out that they are simply awaiting the rise of Servos, and the climactic episode would have some crazy amounts of action unfolding. Number 13, Awaken the Serpent, Season 2, Episode 13. The Medallion of Serpos is a source of great power, and in the wrong hands it could cause great devastation. What could possibly go wrong when King Hiss gets hold of it, you ask? He uses it to awaken the ancient prison on Eternia, and all hell breaks loose. Doomsday begins with Prince Adam sharpening sword blades with his father when he hears the voice of the sorceress. She warns him that great evil is about to be unleashed and he must immediately assemble his fellow warriors. He quickly transforms into He-Man and leads the other Masters to stop the threat. It seems that King Hiss was going to let loose a new weapon, and He-Man cautions the others to expect the unexpected.
Perhaps you'll feel differently after Servos destroys the palace of Eternia.
They watch in horror as the Snake Mountains seem to come alive. Unless they are stopped from reaching a populated region, it would be catastrophic. Teela's uncle makes a brave attempt to strike the beasts, but in vain. He-Man strikes the eyes, but that doesn't seem to make much difference either. It's simply too powerful. His battle cat manages to save him, but King Hiss seems to have him just where he wanted.
Servos at my command, I shall rule the planet once again.
Man-at-Arms and his brother rescue the injured He-Man, and their sudden assault pushes the Snake Men away. The evil forces move to attack populated regions, and many of the Masters are engaged in the city's defense. But their aggression is simply too devastating. Even He-Man is badly hurt and transforms back to Adam. However, there is a twist in store for us.
You are in deep meditation, but there is a great danger. Zodak, hear me. Zodak!
One of the Masters knew about his true origin all along, and he hands him back the sword just in time. Serpos, the three-headed reptilian monster, is finally thwarted by Zodak and he faces King Hiss once again. He-Man finishes it off, and Zodok confuses the snakes with King Hiss, and they attack him instead. They all perish at the shock of it, and King Hiss states that he would be restored again. But with He-Man destroying the Servos, that becomes null and void. It's a happy ending to the entertaining series, and the bravery and courage of the group saves the day once again.
This is all the time we had for today's episode. We hope you guys liked it. It would be awesome if you guys can take some time to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to tell us which topic you want us to cover in the comment section. Have a fantastic day ahead and stay safe.
One step at a time. Until next time.